E3 2019 news is in full swing, and that is no different with Ubisoft's brand new game, Watch Dogs Legion. How's it going, guys? My name is Ty.
And I'm Zach, and welcome to Echo Games.
Okay, so when it comes to Watch Dogs Legion, we have a few things marked out on our list that we kind of want to go over. You guys will have to give us a little bit of grace here, as this is our first ever gaming news video we have ever made, but we're going to be kind of loose with the format. We're just going to kind of go over a few talking points, things about the E3 presentation or things about the trailer that stood out to us. And first up on the list, really, the biggest thing about this game, I think you'll agree with me, Zach, is the whole any player thing, right? Like, go ahead and hack any
Yeah.
NPC, or maybe hack is not necessarily the right word, but recruit any NPC in the entire world. And at least the way they make it seem as of right now, they mean literally any NPC in the entire world. That's the vibe you got, right, Zach?
Yeah. Like old ladies to boys from the schoolyard, they say
from
anybody.
from old granny ladies feeding pigeons to the boys in the hood, anybody can be a member of DedSec in this game. So that brings to mind some questions, though, and this is actually something that Zach was pretty curious about too, and I think it's a good question. When you can play as any NPC in a game like this, how are they going to work out for one storyline, right? I have some big questions, like storylines going to probably have to be fluid and work out the same way no matter who you play as, I'm assuming. Like, no matter how many people die, who you end up playing as more often than anyone else. I don't think any of that's going to be really imperative to the core storyline of the game. I think we're going to kind of start in one place and end up in one place regardless of how we got there.
I think it would be pretty interesting. Like, oh, you have this new person. Does it change the dialogue? Is what I'm
Right. Well,
wondering.
yeah.
Does it
The
change?
dialogue is going to definitely change, I think. But as far as the overall goal, like, let's say big bad guy number one, right? The whole goal of
Hmm.
game is to kill big bad guy number one. I think regardless of
Hmm.
who you play as in the game, is like who you recruit, I think that you're still going to get to that core base of the story, kill bad guy number one, and eventually he's going to be killed, and then the game is going to wrap up. But it will be really interesting to see how they handle that kind of a thing, because, there's just so many questions. We've never seen a game like this, which brings to mind Watch Dogs is always trying to do something a little bit different. Watch Dogs is always trying to change the game a little bit. We saw that with Watch Dogs 1, and the hacking. The introduction of hacking in general was kind of a new thing to their game, and they really did it big and kind of made a name for Watch Dogs all in one. Now, I wasn't super impressed with Watch Dogs. I didn't even beat Watch Dogs 2, though I've played both of the games. Watch Dogs 2 I just kind of fell off of. How many of these games have you played, Zach?
I played Watch Dogs 1. I thought about Watch Dogs 2, but it never came across me.
Never quite got bit by that bug. So yeah, I don't think you made a bad choice. I never even beat the game just because I kind of lost interest in it. But the mechanics are there, man. I love the hacking. I love the stealthy type gameplay. It's one of my favorite things about these kind of games. Ubisoft in general is typically really good about that kind of stuff. So I love that thing, but a story has to captivate me too. So that's another thing that we have to question here with Watch Dogs Legion is the story gonna be compelling to everyone? And are you going to find that character that you're super attached to, that you want to play as? Because that's kind of how I play these types of like RPG whatever games. I kind of like relate with the character, end up caring about the character. How is that going to change in a situation where characters maybe they drop like flies, and it's permadeath, so they're
Hmm.
gone forever? Am I going to be invested in what's going on with DedSec enough? Let's say like Ian. Maybe I really liked Ian, the first guy we see in the trailer. He's dead now. He's permadead. I'll never play as Ian again. I don't know. I might be susceptible to falling off of the storyline if I don't care for the other NPCs I have at my disposal at the time, right?
Speaking of that, Ty, do you think each person is going to have their own skill sets? Like the drone guy, is he the only one that can mess with the drones?
Right, right. So what you're saying is like I'm worried about a character dying. I might lose my attachment to the game. But you're thinking like the skill set for that dude. That's a really good question, man. So like the drone guy is a good example. So tell me if this is kind of what you're asking. If that drone guy dies, do we lose the abilities he had? Because it's permadeath, right? So every character has a different skill set. I'm kind of getting that vibe too. I think that's kind of what you're hitting on.
In the video, that woman goes to save him, but she moves a drone to come get her to move her to a higher
Oh,
level.
dude, I actually have that written down on my notes. Riding drones. You're talking about when the girl jumps on the drone and rides it?
Yeah, yeah. Like,
Okay,
why do we
okay.
need him if she can use the drones?
Okay, so I don't think she was actually controlling that drone. I think she just jumped on top of it to get over the gate because she knew it was going there.
Mm.
Um, but nonetheless, I mean that's a really good question, and I think that's gonna add like a hint of seriousness to keeping your characters alive. And apologies, guys, we're gonna be using the term NPCs repetitively throughout this video, but these are not NPCs. That's another thing. If you can play as any character, none of the NPCs are non-playable characters. They're gonna have to rename like a staple of gaming for this game because NPCs just seemingly don't exist for this one. But anyway, I digress, getting way off topic here. So what do you think, Zach? Do you think maybe there's going to be like 7 or 8 drone hackers, right? Maybe something like that, because you can't just lose that ability entirely.
Oh,
That
yeah.
that might be, that could get in the way of gameplay, I would think, in the long run.
Hopefully not Ty. Now, my question is, if you could ride a drone instead of a car, which one would be faster and which one do you think would be you would do in the game? Would you drive the drone, like be that cool guy, or would you like just jump into a taxi, like, you know?
I think I'm gonna Uber, man. I think I'm gonna Uber around town. But no, you bring to mind something that I can complain about for days. The driving in the old Watch Dogs games, it's total crap. In my opinion, I mean, don't hate on me, but Watch Dogs 1, Watch Dogs 2, the driving was just horrible. I honestly don't expect it to be any better in this game. And so to answer that question, Zach, I would probably just fly the drone around.
Another question I do want to bring up. So each person, what are their weapons? Like the little old lady, she had that
Mm-hmm.
pistol. Do you think she can get a like rifle? Do you think she can get a grenade launcher? Do you think, or she's just stuck with that one pistol?
Right. So maybe with their skill set, maybe there's classes. Like maybe hackers are a
Hmm.
class of character we can play, and then we have more of like a combat class of character we could bring in. Now that would be really, really interesting. That would make it a lot more fun to build up a roster of, I think they had like 15 people or something you could pick from inside of DedSec whenever Ian died in the trailer. So yeah, I mean, like you would want maybe 4 or 5 hackers, and maybe you want 4 or 5 fighters. Maybe there's drivers that make the driving mechanics not total trash in this game, right? Maybe, I mean, you're onto something, man. That could really, really make the game a lot more in depth. And maybe they missed the mark entirely. Maybe we're super pumped up about this game because it's going to be game changing. It's going to be something we've never seen before. And, they might just drop the ball and it might totally suck.
Hopefully they don't. Hopefully they don't. I feel like they're trying to do what they did with Assassin's Creed, like when they were building up the people and like, oh, these are is your group, but instead you can play as your group and you become one with the group instead of you like just picking a bunch of random people.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And then again, getting attached to characters and stuff. So yeah, we mentioned the old lady, the ex-spy, her name is Helen, who is probably going to be one of my favorite characters to play. She was absolutely hilarious. And the dialogue was
She
pretty
was.
catchy and funny too. Granted, we only saw the dialogue they chose to put in the trailer, so it's probably the best of their writing, so we'll just have to see how that goes. But if you don't mind, Zach, we're going to get super sidetracked if we don't try to stay on this list here. So let's talk real quick about the fight ring. If you guys watched the trailer for Watch Dogs, some of that gameplay is showing up on screen right now. But about a minute and 30 seconds into the trailer for Watch Dogs Legions, there's a fight ring with people all around, and they're showing off NPCs. They're saying, like, you could get this guy, he's an ex-spy, or you could play as Helen, who's also an ex-spy, coincidentally enough, or, this hacker drone kid. But then they show this fighter. They're like, yeah, this guy's not much good for anything, but he's a really good fighter. That's a kind of a callback to those classes we were just speaking of. That kind of lends credence to that's probably the way it's going to work as far as like people having their one unique skill set. And if you lose them, you're probably just going to have to go toil through the other quote unquote NPCs to find another playable NPC that has that skill set for you. But that fight ring makes me question SideQuest because it looked really elaborate. I don't know if that's just like a quick backstory type cutscene thing, or if maybe there's an entire underground fighting ring that we could really get involved in and try to rank ourselves up in and maybe even make money that way. It could really get in depth, or again, it could just be a cutscene. Did you notice that fighting ring when you watched the trailer?
Yeah, I just know the thought just came to my head. Imagine Helen has to fight in that fight ring, like just.
Imagine Helen in Fight Club. Hey, I bet she would do pretty good, man. I bet she wouldn't have too much trouble.
I
But yeah, I
I
also
would put
noted
money
off
on
people
it.
riding on drones, which is funny that you kind of already brought that up, Zach. But
Mm.
yeah, and speaking of drones, if you watch the trailer, just watch the trailer, outside of this video, and you'll probably agree with me. It seems like the drones are the worst of the enemies because if you see them fighting the SWAT team, it's just a baton, and he's kind of punching on them and swinging on them, and all he has is a baton, and he seems to make relatively easy work of the SWAT team guy. But when the drone comes down, they get on the intercom. They're like, "Oh my God, there's a surveillance drone or whatever coming," and then it really hits the fan. So it seems to me like the people, like the bad player people, are not really going to be your extreme enemy. The hardest thing about this game is going to be the drones.
Yeah, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully the people will give us more like of a struggle or a fight. The game could be more together.
So the only reason
That's all.
why I bring that up is because of the batons, like the lack of firearms. And we know the game is taking place in London. I think now, to get a little political, please don't demonetize us, YouTube, even though this is a brand new channel with no monetization. Just don't do it, YouTube. It's not cool. But yeah, in London, famously, the cops don't carry guns. I think I've heard that recently they've been permitted to carry guns for certain big events, but your general cop, general day-to-day guy in London doesn't have a gun. So if we have all these characters that have this immense hacking ability, they have this firearm, a gun or maybe some type of SMG or some type of a machine gun. The cops, as far as like the actual authorities, I don't see them as ever being really much of a threat. But I think it's going to kind of be like a No Man's Sky type thing where there isn't really much of a threat in the world at all until the drones show up. I think they call them Sentinels in No Man's Sky. But from experience, Zach, when the Sentinels show up, it's like, oh shit, run.
Oh yeah, this means business.
Run. And so I kind of feel like we're going to get that same thing. Like, are we even going to fight the drones, or are we just going to flee and run away from the drones? Because the way the trailer makes it look is like they're just immensely powerful. But let's not forget, when he goes to run away from the drones, he becomes freaking visible. What do you think about that, Zach? What do you think
Like
about an
that,
invisible game character?
that caught me off guard, and I'm glad you brought this up. I hope they have more of that, like just more powers in
Yes,
that
more
game.
yeah, more special powers. And so that also brings to mind the question, which kind of owes back to the pretty much first thing we got onto about this game. Skill sets. That was Ian, I'm pretty sure. Ian is the one that went invisible in the gameplay trailer. Or in the trailer, excuse me. But he dies like 4 minutes later. Big thing comes up and says permadeath. Basically, like, you're never going to play as Ian again. So what if he's the only character that can go invisible, and that's just a giant troll, right? That could be a giant troll for the trailer. Make you think like, oh, that's going to be so cool. We're going to have people that can go invisible, people that can do this, people that can do that. And then they're like, oh, no, wait, that was just Ian. No one else can go invisible. Because, I mean, that's plausible. It could happen.
That is.
But it brings to mind so many questions. I'm assuming that's some kind of a power-up when Ian goes invisible. Hopefully you can customize that. Hopefully you can kit that out. And maybe it's not just invisibility, but there's a few other things we could choose from. And maybe more players have that ability to go invisible as well, because it would certainly suck if it was gone. Which brings to mind so many more questions, like maybe is there a timer on it? You're invisible for 10 seconds maybe, get out of sight, run away. It's not going to last forever. Or maybe you just throw on a Harry Potter cloak and you're invisible for, all day if you want to be. Who knows, man?
Seems to me it's gonna be like a Watch Dogs 1 where they when they turn off the power grid and you have to escape before the power comes back on.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, that's what it seems like.
Okay, so yeah, like the power's off for 10 seconds, you have like 10 seconds of darkness to get away, but then the lights pop back up. So you think invisibility is going to kind of be the same, basically the same mechanic, just instead of turning the lights off, you're kind of turning yourself off.
Exactly.
Precisely. So tons and tons of questions. I mean, I could ask questions for days. I know we're not really we're doing nothing but speculating. This is our speculation video. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for my list. People riding on drones, the fight ring. So London in the near future. I saw a lot of tech. Before we go, let's talk about that. Obviously, Watch Dogs is really, really big on tech with the whole hacking theme. That's pretty much the core of the gameplay. So I saw things like holograms in the streets and advertisements and stuff that just seemed rather futuristic. I wonder how that's going to play into the types of guns and weaponry that we can actually use in the game. Because as far as the trailer goes, like we see Helen using a regular 45 or whatever it was. We see a couple of normal guns. Are we going to have rail guns? Are we going to have electric guns? Maybe some super awesome flamethrowers? I don't know. I mean, it's the future. And you bring to mind drones, man. Are there going to be self-driving cars in this game? I mean, if we're going to set it in the future like they're setting it, we kind of know that self-driving cars are coming. Maybe that's something we can play around in this game. You just hop into like a Google car or something, and then it drives you somewhere. That might actually, mark my words, if this
Yeah,
comes true, that might be how they do fast travel, right?
that would be awesome.
Yeah, you just pop up an app in your phone, and then a Google car rolls up. You get in it, load screen, boom, you're on the other side of the map. That would be a really cool way to do that. But who knows what they're gonna do, man? You have anything you would like to add, Zach?
One thing only. The robots. Do you think they're gonna be in the game?
What robots?
Enem like enemy robots. I know they didn't show any humanized robots
Well,
like
drones in technicality are robots, so we know for a fact there's going to be enemy
yeah, okay,
robots,
but like humanized,
right?
like oh
Like
Terminator kind
humanoids.
of looking robot.
So I'm thinking again along the lines of No Man's Sky. It's a really weird comparison to be making, but I'm thinking about the Sentinels. So the Sentinels in No Man's Sky that look pretty much exactly like a walker from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Maybe we get something like that. Maybe. But yeah, I think that's totally plausible, man. Not necessarily just drones in the sky like we think of a drone, but technically, a bipedal drone that can actually carry a gun and shoot at you too, a droid, if you would. Yeah, I mean, that might actually make the enemies a little more challenging, which is one of my concerns with the police officers and stuff just being armed with batons. It'd be quite interesting if they could, pull a suitcase out of the back of the car, open it up, and then, this drone just pops up out of it and starts walking around, making all kinds of Star Wars noises, just shooting everybody up. That's a good question,
That
Jack.
would, yeah, that would be nice. I have a theory about the guy that talks to you. Do you think he's gonna end up being the bad guy?
The guy that talks to you, you're talking about the AI?
Is it a
Yeah, it's an AI.
yeah,
So yeah, that guy is definitely an AI, man. You're talking about the guy that is in their ear and stuff, the little earpiece dude.
yeah, yeah. Do you
Yeah.
think he has
So
his own agenda?
well, he's an AI, right? So he's like Tony Stark's Jarvis, basically, is pretty much exactly what he is. So that brings, yeah, I mean, he could be susceptible to being hacked, right, by an enemy hacker group, and he
Hmm.
could, yeah. I mean, I don't think he's going to be inherently evil because he is an AI, but I do believe he might be susceptible to some type of hacking that could turn him against us. So you're getting creepy vibes from him, is what you're saying in the trailer,
Yeah,
yeah. You're
yeah.
paranoid, Zach. You're paranoid, my man.
I haven't seen
No.
him. I can't trust him.
So that brings to mind another question. Like I said, we could just ask questions about this game for hours because at this point we just really don't know what it's going to be. But that does make me think about NPCs and stuff. What if you end up recruiting a bad NPC, right? Because as far as we know from Watch Dogs 2, there's other groups of hackers. DedSec is not the only hacker group out there. What if you were to accidentally recruit someone from another hacking group? Would they have an agenda? Is it going to get that deep with their story? Or are they just going to default over to DedSec and that's going to be the end of it? It kind of depends because they say every NPC, excuse me, non-playable, playable character, don't even know what to call these guys, but every character has its own backstory. They have their own name, they have their own job, they have, their own skill set. Everybody's supposed to be a little bit different. Hopefully some of them are roughly the same so we can continue to, get more of those skill sets as these people die off in our roster. But yeah, I mean, technically, I guess you could recruit the wrong guy and then maybe he could hack Jarvis, our AI guy, and then everything else just dies and then the game's over. It's the first game that'll ever end without you winning.
Dang. I'm glad you brought that up. There is another group in the Watch Dogs universe, the Brotherhood or some junk like that they talk about. But I wonder if they're also gonna be in this game
Probably so. I don't
since we're talking
remember
about other groups.
I don't remember what they're called because I played Watch Dogs 2 maybe about halfway through, 50% or so. And I remember there was some rivalry going on with like different hacking groups in that game. I don't really remember who and what's what, but there are definitely enemy hacking groups as well. And so maybe, yeah, we're probably going to have to deal with those guys too. I think really at the end of the day, man, it just kind of all comes down to gameplay for me. I mean, I'm gonna try this game no matter what. I am on the hype train for this game, but I don't know if I'm gonna like it. Like if it was a brand new thing, if I had never played another Watch Dogs game in the past, I would be full on board the hype train, full speed ahead. But just having played Watch Dogs 1, having played Watch Dogs 2, I wasn't super impressed with either one of them. Not like they were not enjoyable games, but they just weren't super big standouts like I had kind of hoped they would be. And so I'm kind of going into it skeptical. But that said, I'm still excited. I'm still going to play it. And you never know, it might just be the best game of the year, right? So this game comes out March 6th of 2020. That's the set release date right now. But as we know, guys, they could always end up moving that down a little bit further down the line. It might come out more like Christmas of 2020, though I don't think it would get pushed back any further than that. Ubisoft should be pretty good about getting it out to us in the year 2020 for sure. But what do you think, Zach? Is this a must-play for you? Are you super hyped, kind of hyped, a little skeptical? How are you feeling here for our parting words?
I'm a little skeptical, but I'll still buy it, you know?
Yeah, so you're about in the
really
same
good.
place. Yeah, same place as me.
I'm on the same boat as you are, but I'm skeptical about it. I don't know how it's gonna end up, and I'm hoping it's gonna end up good.
Yeah, I mean, I wish them the best, man. Ubisoft, I'm a fan of. They're not maybe my favorite developer, but they definitely make a lot of games that, you know, meant a lot to me, like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry have always been big games to me. So I'm excited to see it. I want Watch Dogs to be up there for me. I want it to be a contender for me. So we'll just have to see how it goes. So that'll be it for our first ever episode of Echo Games. Hopefully me and Zach were not too ADD'd out in this video. We did make a list just so we could kind of stay on track for you guys. But if you did enjoy this, make sure you drop a like on it, guys. Leave a thumbs up to let us know that you did enjoy it. Share this video with your friends as well, as this is our first ever gaming news video we've ever made, and this is the first video ever up on this channel. Make sure you take a link, share it with your friends, let people know what we're doing, and please, guys, make sure you drop comments down below to let us know what you want to cover next. This is going to be a gaming news channel, but it's also going to be kind of chill. We're going to do some live stream podcast. We're never going to be like super serious about it, but we also want to make sure we get the news to you guys and kind of just have honest dialogue between friends. That's the general idea here. We're just going to hop into a chat together, talk about the game like we would if we were on the couch. The only difference is we're going to have bullet points of things we know we want to talk about, and we're going to edit it and let you guys listen. So it's going to kind of be like IGN, but kind of not either, which is probably a good thing. So anyway, guys, if you enjoyed it, let us know about it. Like, share with your friends, like I said, and make sure you guys stay up to date via all of our links in the description so you know when the next video is coming around. Thank you guys very much for being a part of our very first gaming news breakdown.